It is April 9th, 2020. Thanks for joining us today. We've got a gangbuster of a show, Anthony. That's because we've got Kristi White of Knowland. We've got Chris Green back with us of Chesapeake Hospitality. And we expect to have Mr. Lee Hunter of the Hunter Hotels Conference and Advisory with us. Stay tuned. We've got quite the show for you guys today. Anthony Melchiori, great to see you today, sir. Before we get started, I want to thank our great sponsors over at Bar Tech. They're doing great stuff. They've been around for more than 30 years, helping folks like you out make more money. And think about it this way, when we get back to traveling, people may want to spend more time in the rooms. And I think mini bars are going to be more important than ever. At that point, check them out at info@bartech.com or www.bartech.com. Anthony, how's it going, man?
How are you, my brother? I thought you were going to screw up my last name, and I was going to never, ever spell your name with two N's again.
Well, I'm not sure you ever have, but I was going to go with Melchiori today, since that's commonly what people call you.
Yes, God bless you. You said true.
Right to you too.
How was your Passover, or how is your Passover?
Yes, well, so first let me say to everybody, I'm glad that you've arrived, and we have had a great Passover here, Anthony. We didn't have a traditional Passover because we got short, didn't go to the grocery store and get everything that we needed. So instead of having the traditional roast chicken last night, we made fish tacos.
Fish tacos on Passover.
Yeah.
What are we talking about today, buddy?
All right. Well, I don't know where Lee Hunter is our first guest, but while we wait for Lee, let's just get Chris Green in here. Mr. Chris Green. Oh, wait, did I just hear Lee Hunter pop up? Yes. All right, Chris, I'm going to put you back in the holding room. I'm going to bring in Lee Hunter right now. Sorry, Chris, we love you, but we got to talk to Lee. Lee Hunter, how are you, sir? Glenn here. Can you see us? Can you hear us? Are you with us? Lee, are you there, Lee?
Wave.
Lee, are you there, Lee? This is turning into a fascinating internet program today.
So let's put him back in and let's take Chris back out.
All right. Lee, are you there? Did we hear you? Are you there, Lee?
Come on, Lee. Put the whole conference together.
You can do it, man. Let's go. You can do it, man. This is a lot less complicated than what you do every single day. All right, we're gonna take a close look at Lee's computer. Right there. I'm going to remove him from the room until he gets his stuff figured out. All right. Let's bring Chris back in for a second. Chris, how you doing, buddy?
Good. How's everybody?
So, Chris, did you ever think in your life that the Hunter Conference would be canceled? I mean, that tells you where we are, huh?
No. I mean, no, we're living in times that are so strange, I've been talking, we talked about it last week or Tuesday, I think we were on, about when talking to my friends that are CEOs of other management companies and other people in leadership, when's the next industry conference we're going to see each other at? And I'm getting a whole bunch of different answers. The most recent answer is Alice 2021.
Oh, well, and when is that?
January 21.
That's not good. That is not good news for our friend Harry Javer at the lodging conference. Let's see if Lee is functioning right now. Lee, can you hear us?
I think I can. Yes. Can
you hear me? So unfortunately, you've got a lot of light behind you, so you're looking a little bit like a man in the shadows. But I suppose you're kind of feeling a little bit that way. I just want to start off by saying how much all of us feel sorry for what you and your family have had to deal with over these times. And I know even though all of us are dealing with troubles and tragedy and throughout this crisis right now, it's still really rough, and we still really feel terrible for you. I know we were all looking forward to being part of your event. It's one of my favorite events throughout the year, and I was really, really rooting for you, especially when you said you were going to postpone it, but now circumstances have changed and it's just not going to be possible. What are you thinking about? How are you feeling? What has this whole process been like for you, friend?
Yeah, well, Glenn, thanks. It's we hear it and we read it every day and have for the better part of the last month. These are unprecedented times that we're all living in right now. Whether we're conference producers, brokers, management companies like Chris, owners, investors, hotel brands, it's just unprecedented. I mean, this is going to affect every industry in every corner of the world, not just our little piece of it here in the U.S. in the hospitality space.
Lee, for those people that don't really know what the Hunter Conference is, before we go any further, why don't we just explain it? Because people that maybe not gone to it or people that don't know it don't understand how big of a deal it is for our industry. And I just want you to explain that because to give them perspective.
We are a hotel real estate investment conference. Best way to define it, I mean, you were talking Alice in January a second ago. We're Alice, except we're in March. And we're not in Los Angeles, we're in Atlanta. We had just shy of 2,000 people in attendance last year. Lenders, brokers, investors, third-party management companies, every major brand, from economy, select service, all the way through full service, 1,200 room, urban, city center type hotels. Everybody, and it's primarily on the investment side of that equation. From an operational standpoint, it's not us, but we're Alice, we're NYU, except we're in Atlanta in March.
And I'd like to say that I think that your event is a little bit more casual in the sense of tone and the feeling of it, not necessarily in the way people are dressed, but in just everyone's really easily approachable. Everyone seems pretty relaxed, and it's always been one of the highlights on my convention calendar. In fact, I met one of my good industry friends, Chris Green, at one of your events a number of years ago when we first kind of bonded. So thank you, Lee, for helping create great relationships in our business.
That's why when we founded this, when Bob Hunter started this, I guess 32 years ago now, that was why he did it. He was actually in attendance at NYU, realized, hey, we need a conference for what I'm going to define the non-Wall Street guy. He recognized there was a need, and that's how it began. It's never been designed to be a profit center for Hunter Hotel Advisors. It was all designed to be something that the industry needed, that a select service focused conference, deals less than in 1986, deals less than $25 million single asset value. So that's how it started. That's how it began. Now it's grown over the 32 years we've been doing this to include full service, like I said, major city center hotels. But it was designed for the guy who only owned 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 hotels that said Hampton Inn, that said Courtyard, that said, Comfort Inn, not the Marriott Marquis.
Right.
Obviously the conference has grown over the years, but that's who it was designed for. And it's, we feel, my day job is, we're hotel brokers, and we're a small family business. It's me, my dad, my brother, and the team we've built around us. So we feel that it's we're having a dinner party at our house and we're inviting our friends to come over.
Right. And it definitely feels that way, which is one of the reasons why I like that event so much. And what something just started as a more regional thing has definitely become more of a national type of event. And I hope that when you do have the event next year, that all of you folks out there will consider attending it, because it is so important. But, Lee, what was that process like for you dealing with this on the emotional component, and how are you all handling things right now personally in your family?
It's unknown, right? I mean, we went into this, I can tell you it was 5:30 on a Wednesday evening. I guess it was the week before the original conference was supposed to start. And I'm walking into my son's first baseball game of the season. And I'm on the phone with Teague, and we've been
that's his brother. In case
Teague's my brother. Yep. On the phone with my brother. Walking into this baseball game, and he and I had been on the phone with, stakeholders in the conference, sponsors, attendant speakers, the like, and, talking, what do we do? And at 5:30 on Wednesday evening, we said, we're having this conference next week. A week from today, we are going to start this conference. Head down. Here we go. From 5:30 Wednesday evening to 10:30 Thursday morning, the world changed.
Yep.
Right. The NBA indefinitely canceled their season. The president said no inbound traffic from Europe. The world changed. And so we looked at each other, got our father, Bob, on the phone, and looked each other in the eye and said, hey, the right thing to do is to postpone this thing.
Well, there was such a tsunami of cancellations at that moment. You guys really had no chance. You were just going to be swept away no matter what. So better that you took control when you did, in order to make that that declaration. So that way you would be in a better position to plan for that postponement, which will now just be a cancellation for next year. Go on.
Lee, were most of your sponsors, as soon as you made the decision to not only postpone it but to cancel it this year, what was their reaction? Were they like, hey, "Listen, you had no choice, and it was probably a good move"? What were those conversations like?
Well, when we postponed it originally, they were all supportive. Again, as I said, the president, with everything that had just happened, they were all very supportive. All like you said, Glenn, they were proud of us for getting out in front of it and being proactive as opposed to being reactive to the situation. So they were supportive. We looked at moving it to late June in conversations with the advisory board and sponsors. We were like, that's a little soon. A late July date became available. And again, we continued those conversations, and we have great advisory board members and sponsors who are willing to talk about their businesses and about what they're experiencing, but also giving us, not only advice from where they sit in their day job, but also, as friends. Hey, Lee, this is my company line, but here's me as your friend telling you this. And we just ultimately, when we're talking about it, we said, hey, the best thing for everyone, both personally and professionally, is for us to cancel this thing and focus on 2021.
Right. And I encourage everybody to please sponsor these guys next year, or at least come on out to join them and help show your support to them. Lee, for the last part of our conversation, before we wrap up with you, what's going on the transaction side today, and what are your expectations in the future on that?
Right now, everybody's hit a collective pause button.
Right. Of course.
People are focused on, hey, how do I keep my current hotels open? How do I restructure that debt if need be?
Right. I think you mean open in the context of still doing business,
still doing
physically
business,
opened or closed during this period of time.
Correct. Right. Still doing business. And so there's been a collective pause button. Deals that were currently under contract, depends on where they are in that contract. If they're still in due diligence, some buyers are saying, I'm out. I'll revisit the deal once we get through all this. Other buyers are saying, I still like the deal. I still want to acquire the asset. Let's have a pricing discussion. As you might imagine, buyers want to come in. I want a 40% price reduction, and sellers are saying, I'll give you 10. The answer is it's looking like it's working itself to be somewhere in that 20 to 30% price reduction range right now. People still want to buy assets. They still see a long-term future in this market, so they're still interested in it. A lot of these players, again, their lenders are still with them because the lender understands that same long-term investment strategy. They just want to reset pricing. So the pricing right now appears to be getting reset, 20 to 30% below where it was.
But wouldn't the smart money just wait a year and just sit on the sidelines and continue to own the asset and just wait this out? Because I can understand a 10% reduction just to get it off your balance sheet and move on. But a 30% price reduction, you're starting to hit serious profit. Wouldn't you wait this out? I mean, what are you hearing?
Some short answer is D, all the above. Depends on the seller's particular situation. Some groups are saying, you know what, I'm not giving a discount right now. I'll sit and wait it out. And they're pulling properties off the market. Others are, hey, I committed to selling this asset. It's a legacy asset. I want to recycle the capital. I want dry powder available to me when we get through all this. I was committed to selling before. I'm committed to selling now. Okay, so that's at a 20% discount. So be it. And then there's the range of everywhere in between. I mean, some groups are saying, hey, let's sell, let's reevaluate, come May, June, July, as to where value is. And I think that's the question is how long is this going to last, right? And it's the great unknown that we're all asking ourselves, whether it's vis-a-vis a conference or, managing a hotel like Chris is doing, or, buying and selling assets. It's the great unknown. Nobody knows when this thing is going to end. Is it going to, peak and we're going to be on the backside of new cases mid-April,
Right.
or is it going to be mid-May, or is it going to be mid-June? When is this thing going to peak? And then when will people start traveling again?
When will people feel safe?
Yeah. When will they? And that's, in making our decision, we were looking at late July was our last date. And we're like, when will people feel, okay, we peak in mid-May and we're on the backside of it. End of July is 2.5 months later. Will people feel safe at that point to travel?
Right.
Will they be focused on getting their businesses back up and running and not have time to travel and go to a conference? And, we said, let's just take that decision out of their hands and make it for them. We, as conference producers, we feel there's going to be a collective sigh of relief when everybody sees the press release that went out this morning saying, hey, we're canceling the conference. Do I think we would have had 500-700 people at the end of July? Absolutely. I think we would have had, that number of people show up at the end of July for the conference. I think those people will now say, whew, I'm glad I don't have to show up.
Right.
Right. So, I mean, even within my team, when we, informed, again, we have two sides of the house here, right? I have a day job as a broker. When I informed the rest of our brokerage team, the decision we had made with respect to the conference, I could see them have a collective sigh of relief that we weren't going to do this. Right. So, then the question became, okay, what's next? Will a HOA that's scheduled to go August 9th, will it happen? Will, the lodging conference is coming up the end of September. What will be the case there? How about, NYU looks like they're trying to reschedule for some time, in November. I don't think they've made that decision yet, but that's what I'm hearing. And then you got Alice in January. What's that looking like? When will people be ready to come out and travel? And I think it's the great unknown that scares everybody and every business.
Yeah.
Can I ask Lee a question?
Go ahead, Chris.
Lee, what about the Masters? Are we going to have it in November or what? You think?
Yes, you see my guess is on this side. Today would have been day one. So it's funny when you look at the date that they rescheduled to, it's a bye week for the University of Georgia football team.
That's very convenient. Well, I do want to say that Alan Roberts, and those of you who don't know, he's the global head of Embassy Suites, says he really is going to miss the event this year. That's one of his favorites. And Miraj Patel, he's a big young player in the industry, is saying, thanks for taking this decision sooner than later, but looking forward to 2021. So looks like your gut instincts are all right. People are going to miss it, but at least you're not putting yourself into a position where you're going to be in the defensive on this.
And Lee, what you said, and I'm glad you said that about your team. You said they took a collective sigh of relief. One of the things I'm getting, a lot of questions about, some of my workers don't want to come to work. Some of my workers are afraid to do this or afraid to do that. You as a leader, you have to embrace that fear and let people know we're all concerned. And we're all worried about, should we travel in June, July, or August? So being to take that fear away from them, I give you a lot of credit for that, because I know there's a lot at stake for your company. And having it, even with 800 people, there's probably a benefit as opposed to just canceling the whole thing. So I think more owners have to think about that a lot. Listen, everybody canceled. That's understandable. But the way you go about it and understanding and appreciating what your employees are feeling.
Thank you. Yeah, like I said, it's, first and foremost in our mind is everyone's, health and well-being. We didn't want someone, with the systematic people, everybody talking, hey, you can not have symptoms, but you still have it. We didn't want to also be the start of the next wave.
Right.
Right. We're first and foremost concerned about everybody's physical health, their well-being. Didn't want them to come to Atlanta, take it back home to their little part of the world, and now all of a sudden someone here had it, and now it spreads again. And again, if we can just sort of take the decision out of everybody's hand, don't have to force them to say, okay, am I going to get on an airplane, fly to Atlanta, and participate in a conference or not? We didn't want to put people in that position.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. Well, thanks, Lee. We really appreciate you you being here today. Let's get you back on the show when we have something that we can talk about in regards to transactions and something positive and all of that kind of stuff. So,
can I ask one more question?
Of course, Anthony. Go ahead, man.
Tell me the bailout, for lack of a better word. I'm hearing a lot of complications and frustration. Chris brought it up the other day, and I'm hearing other people talk about it. What are you hearing from the finance side? And if I right now needed a $60 million construction loan, because actually on one of the projects we're working on, we need a $60 million construction loan. Where are we?
I think balance sheet lenders have done a fantastic job of being proactive with their borrowers. They're reaching out, they're saying, hey, how can we help you? What can we do? We're hearing a lot of, 90-day, no payments for 90 days. We're also starting to hear rumblings of after that initial 90 days, there will be an additional 90 days of interest only. So for, nothing for 90 days and then 90 days interest only. So that gets, to 180 days of sort of deferred payment, if I can call it that. So the balance sheet lenders have been very good of talking with their borrowers and getting out in front of this. I did talk to another balance sheet lender the other day who said, hey, I'm talking with my guys because what happens at day 181? Right. So we're talking to our borrowers about making some level of payment right now. Now, granted, these borrowers, have the cash available to do this, but make some level of payment right now. Is that 3 months? Is that 6 months of payments today, prepayments? And then you won't have to make another payment for a year. So then for the next 12 months, you've got no payments you have to make. So ultimately, eventually, you'll get to the point where you've made enough cash back to where you've covered those 6 months of prepayments.
Right.
And now you're just making more money over the next however many months that is to be able to get back in and start making payments once those 12 months expired. I think the real question is going to be the CMBS debt. How's that going to look? And right now, that's a process and people are still trying to figure that out. And I know there's a bunch of our clients who have reached out, trying to find their master servicer and their special servicer already, and they're not able to find them. And when they do find them, they're not getting answers to their questions. So I think the CMBS debt market's going to be the one that's interesting. What I can also tell you is in a lot of our conversations, it's the first half of the conversation is about what are you doing? What's your plan? How's your plan that you've implemented working? You've furloughed how many employees? How's that looking? Are you going to have to furlough more? What's your lender telling you? All, those conversations. But the second half of the conversation goes something along the lines of, Lee, we've just raised 30, 40, $300 million of dry powder. So if there's any deals out there, we want to buy.
Right. Chris, how about giving your perspective on what Lee just said?
That's what we're working with the clients on that side, kind of Lee's working on the broker side. And that's what we're hearing. The most difficult time we're having right now is CMBS. Same with what Lee said, right on the mark, which those guys at Hunter always are. But it's just a challenge. And we are hearing, listen, we talked Tuesday that the time frame, everybody was like, okay, we're going to be back at this in May. Well, I don't know if that's realistic or not. And now, the CARES Act is needing to get additional funding. It's not enough money. Borrowers are going to need way more time. And even if we do come out of this in 60 to 90 days, we're going to spend 6 to 9 months re-ramping up. So cash flows aren't going to be where they were. It's going to put people in serious issues with their debt service. So I think all of these solutions are changing daily. And that's probably what Lee's seeing. What we thought was going to be good 3 months off, now that's no longer probably good. We need more time off. I did see a letter today to the Fed from some senators. I got a copy of it here, talking about the CMBS market and how they just really need a solution to be able to put out system-wide, to be able to let these CMBS lenders have some breathing room and to be able to work with their clients.
Yeah. All right. Well, I do want to let everybody know, a little program note, that I am working behind the scenes to get on some CMBS related people on here so we could have a more productive conversation about that, because that does seem to be the one sector most in danger right now of causing the hospitality industry big trouble. So, Lee, any final thoughts before we let you go today?
Hey, keep your heads up, everybody. We will get through this.
Yeah.
We always do. Keep your heads up. Stay positive. As my mother used to tell me, this too shall pass.
Right.
No, yep. And I think the word of the day or the year is stamina. The people with the stamina, the mental and physical stamina, to get through this, because we're all going through it, and every one of us on this call has been touched by somebody that either has it or has been sick with it. Exactly, we will get through this. America is the greatest country in the world, and we need stamina, and that's if we're looking like if I had to take a guess, August 1st, and that's probably a really, really aggressive guess. It's probably closer to September, October, but I'm thinking things will look a little bit normal August 1st. And just based on everything I'm seeing in the last couple of days, I wouldn't have said that 4 days ago.
Right. And I do want to also put out there that Stephen Blidner, CEO of TTI, is pointing out that the Fed just released another $2.3 trillion deal. I did see that before we went on air, but thank you for pointing that out, because I didn't think to mention that on there. So, Lee, thanks again for being here, and I promise we will get you back real soon. I will talk to you online. Thanks again for being here and being so open and honest with us, man. That was
my pleasure, Glenn.
Really
thanks
awesome.
for having me.
Thank you.
It was a pleasure, Lee.
All right, so let's welcome our next. There she is, Kristi White from Knowland. Kristi, how are you today? And whenever we ask how are you today, we always assume that it's horrible. But above that, how are you doing today?
It's not a bad day. My marketing department did make me clean up my area, my desk back here, because there was a bottle of wine back there for the longest. Because since I can't find hand sanitizer, I do believe that you should be treating it from the inside out. So my alcohol consumption has gone way up in the last few weeks.
So that will explain any slurred words going forward. If we have
perfectly sober at the moment, I promise.
we understand. Before we get into it, Kristi, tell us who you are and what Knowland is, so we can understand the context that you're coming from in the conversation we're going to be having today about what you folks out there can do to find a little bit more success once all of this kind of fades away a little bit.
Absolutely. So I'm Kristi White. I'm a 30+ year veteran of the hospitality industry. I spent 17 years on the hotel side. I joke that the only job I've never had at a hotel is I've never been a general manager, and I've never been a maintenance chief. But past that, if it can be done in a hotel, I have actually done it. Most of my background is revenue management with a strong side on the sales side. And in the last 17 years, I've spent 12 years I've spent on the vendor side, helping hotels make more money. And about just shy of a year ago, Bob Post coaxed me out of semi-retirement to come run the product at Knowland. And we are, I guess the best way to put it, although we're trying to kind of put this behind us, is we're the reader board company. We're that company that comes in and takes photos of your reader board and then pulls all that up. And now we're putting business intelligence behind that to help your salespeople to understand what's going on in their marketplace, but also give them the buying behavior of companies. Does this company buy for luxury hotels versus upper upscale, so that when they're going in to do their prospecting, they know what accounts to hit on and which accounts they should probably shy away from based upon the buying behavior of that company. So that's who we are. Chesapeake is a big customer of ours, and we love those guys. They do an amazing job. Actually, are one of the super users of our product. So it's kind of nice to be here.
That's pretty cool. And I want you to know that this came up organically. I did not put Chris and Kristi together in order for this synergy. It's just that this relationship happened to exist. Anthony, you got to talk now, I bet.
There's way too much love for Chris. We're not going to talk about this. Can we take Chris? Can we take Chris off the screen?
I haven't said anything.
Well, that's the whole point.
I'm the one who's like dominating the conversation today. I won't shut up.
So Kristi, outside of what we're all dealing with personally, from a professional standpoint, what are you, and this is a big question, and so you can answer it in 17 different ways, but just one answer. What is your biggest concern 6 months from now from a business standpoint for your clients?
There's going to be two concerns. One, I'm concerned that our hotels are not going to have the staff to the trained staff to be able to service customers once demand returns. That's going to be a very real concern because some of these people are going to have found jobs elsewhere. I'm in a private group on Facebook that's all hospitality oriented. And you've got a lot of people that have been furloughed who are just saying, that's it. I'm done with the hospitality business. I'm going to go find something else. I'm going to go sell pharmaceuticals or whatever. So that's a little bit of concern for me. The other concern is that we're not going to know how to recover. Our industry is coming off of 10 years of unprecedented growth, and our salespeople have forgotten how to sell.
Thank you.
Or are too young to have ever faced adversity in the sales.
Yeah. So, they're really good at typing on their computer and responding to RFPs and praying to the RFP guy that they get that piece of business. But
Kristi, you're the only person with guts in the last 4 weeks to say that, and I appreciate it because in 2008, all the salespeople that did that were out of the business, and you're the only person to say that, and I applaud you because, and I said it the other day, the people that are tried and true hospitality people and do the grunt work and were running their companies like they were going out of business are the companies that are going to be successful. The companies that forgot what hospitality was about, forgot about their employees, forgot about their guests, and forgot about thinking 6 months from now, a year from now, and keeping their product moving forward, their employees moving forward, are going to have, they're going to be successful. But you're the first person to say that, and I agree with you. There's a lot of salespeople that got lazy because they basically were able to make their check by just picking up the phone. And I did probably about 6 months ago, I did a little test for a show I was doing, and I called 12 hotels in New York City. Okay, 11 didn't answer the phone.
Yeah,
and the one that answered 11 that answered the phone in sales answered it in 2 rings, took all the information, and they were running. I know that hotel; it's like running 100% occupancy. And that young lady that answered the phone was answering the call like her life depended on it and her business depended on it. And she was grateful, thankful, and appreciative of us calling her over anyone else. And I said, the only reason I called you is because 11 people said didn't answer the phone. That's the kind of person that's going to be successful. So thank you for saying that.
No, and it's true. We do a lot of surveys internally, and I do webinars inside the company. And one of my questions is do your people know how to develop relationships? And on the last webinar we did, 40% of them said, no, that's not a skill we possess. And as we begin to recover, and we've got to reach out to these companies, I've been through 4 different recessions with the hospitality industry across 2 separate decades, now 3 decades, I guess. And in each of them, where we saw the recovery was local. It was that business sitting back behind my hotel. Georgia Pacific was one of my customers after 9/11. And the day that those towers went down, we called every reservation we had to say, who are you coming? Are you going to be here today or tomorrow? Because we knew that nothing was happening. And we got a VP with Georgia Pacific who actually answered his phone and he said, no, I didn't. And thank you for calling because I totally forgot about this. It wouldn't have occurred to me to cancel this reservation today. 3 months later, the local office called us and booked a 100-person event at our hotel. And when we asked, what other hotels are you considering? It was part of our normal protocol. They're like, none. The VP told us to book with you because they liked the way you handled this crisis. And that's my second level of concern is, do we actually have the compassion in our sales teams to handle these cancellations in a way that puts us in a good view for these companies that are having to cancel? Or are we trying to push clauses that are going to cause bad feelings?
Well, I think it really comes down to ownership and it comes down to leadership. And if you're going to come out of this and you're going to put so much pressure on your team to sell and beat the competition, and you're going to have a problem. I think the way to go into this is to appreciate and understand those salespeople's job and give them the tools and the compassion they need to do it. If you come out of this and you put your foot on the gas of your sales team, you're going to break your sales team. And not only are you going to break your sales team, you're not going to get the business that counts. It's the business that when you go through a recession again, the business that's going to come back to you. You're going to get the business opportunity right now because it's in front of you. But if you don't build those relationships, and it's not, when people say, well, I don't know how to build a relationship, it's not the 20-year-olds or the 30-year-olds. It's the 40 or 50-year-olds too that forgot how to deal with a relationship. And I know as I get older, I kind of tend to be a little bit more isolated. I forgot how to build relationships sometimes. And we were saying the other day, Glenn goes to all the cocktail parties and I go to my room. So it's important for people to remember.
And by room, he means poker table.
But that is such a really good point. And Kristi, I can tell you're a real hotelier because you keep coming back to the heart of what our business is. And it's not an overused word, and it's so important. People want to do business with people they trust, and what's going to come out of this is trust. We'd like to think that this show has become a trust point where people can come and get real information, and people like you saying real things like, if you're an order taker, you're done. I mean, that's really important. Chris has contributed nothing to the show, and I expect that from him.
Chris, now you know Anthony likes you.
Yeah. So I would add on to that also is, as we begin to recover and things start to look good, those cancellations slow. We've even seen a couple of markets that week over week occupancy is starting to ease up just a little bit, and not just the plummet to the bottom. But if you've got your salespeople out there trying to develop those relationships, if they start that hard sell now, they're going to come off as tone deaf. So, these initial conversations have to be, I'm a Southern girl, so it has to be around that, how's your mama and them conversations. It can't be when are you going to rebook that event that you canceled last week, Anthony? It's, Anthony, how, you guys started the conversation. How was Passover? How was your Passover in light of everything? It's when I ran hotels, I used to have a very derogatory term called donut dolly. And it was for those salespeople that had to have something in their hand when they walked into someone's office. We had a whole budget line for it. Mm-hmm. And I didn't mean it as a good thing when I called you a donut dolly. But we're going to have to figure out a way to be the virtual donut dolly. And I was on a webinar a couple of weeks back, and someone said, mail a good client or someone you're developing a relationship, mail them a roll of toilet paper. It gives that tongue in cheek that we're all in this together. And chances are your hotel's standing empty and you've got about 3 cases of toilet paper sitting back in the back somewhere, right, that you could
emphasis
spare.
On cheek. Right.
I wasn't going there, but thanks for that, Glenn.
Hey, I'm all about taking it down. But while I have hijacked the microphone here for a second, Kristi, I want to let you know that there are people in the room that freaking love you. They're saying, preach, Kristi, preach. And how, what everything you're saying is really reflective of what's going on. Plus, they're suggesting that maybe you started in the hospitality business when you were like 10 years old. So I'll let you guys take it from here. I've said my piece. Chris, I think you've got something to say.
No, Kristi's exactly right. I think that through the past 10 years, it's very, very clear that we've gotten too connected to technology. And I do want to say it in 2 ways. The relationship part of selling is something that has to be done and done perfectly, because it just doesn't work without it. I will say, and this is not a plug, I do love Knowland, and I'll tell you why. It gives you the resources to develop really good intelligence before you start forming that relationship. You understand what that client's looking for in their meetings and in their travel. And then you can start with a groundwork of what kind of company they are and how they like to travel and what kind of facilities they use and what the average size of their meetings are. So, when the time comes, Knowland is a resource that Chesapeake, as she said, we use it very deeply to understand how to do it. And that's going to be critical in understanding. They say there's 20 questions you ask in the sales process, and most of them have nothing to do with the actual, the financials or anything of the meeting. It's, what does the meeting planner expect? What would a good meeting look like for you? Well, if you use these tools that we have to know what they expect in a meeting and how your hotel compares to where they've been staying, man, you can really deliver a very meaningful sales pitch that speaks to their needs, not to the hard sell.
You warm up the conversation. It's no longer a cold call. It's a warm call because you know a little bit about that company, and it shows that you've invested some time in getting to know them before you ever picked up that phone call. Glenn, there's a question that's in the live comment. Do you mind if I address that really quickly?
Yeah, go ahead. Go for it.
So it's Sherry in Salerno. Sorry to call you out on this.
Which feed are you seeing? Because I don't see this question.
I'm in the live comments, and it's what advice
my goodness, I missed
do you have
go
for those whose properties get taken over as shelters or converted to a makeshift hospital? And what impact will this have on the property coming back when this is all over? The reason I want to address this is because it's come up a couple of times in webinars I've done. I'm actually a really big fan of this. I think if this happens to your hotel, you lean into it. Let everybody know. Have a plan on what you've done to clean up the hotel and go through the decontamination piece of it. But you lean into this, because what better service? We're a service industry, and how are you better serving your community than by doing something like this? So lean into it and own it.
Listen, first of all, I will not accept a Kristi's Corner. I'm dealing with Kristi's Corner. I'm not dealing with Kristi's Corner. So if she's invited back 2-3 times a week, I quit. Now, with that said, I
All
think
right.
I love
So hold on.
Kristi.
Let me make a note. Invite Kristi back.
Kristi, I think I love you, Kristi. You're the type of person that I love running hotels with, because you're no nonsense, no bullshit, and I love it. Now, I will say I love the fact that you said lean into it. You know, when you look at the Four Seasons and what they did in New York, okay, at first we all went, what? They just opened their hotel to all doctors and nurses exclusively, and they're going to be a shelter for doctors and nurses and frontline workers. What? That I was like, yes, and everybody was like, oh my God, that's crazy. The Four Seasons. There was just a big article in one of the major newspapers showing what they're doing and how they're doing it. And the thing that came away for me in the article was when Rudy, who's the general manager over there, when he decided to do this, he did it because he wanted to support and make sure that doctors had great breakfast and had great room service and had a great cup of coffee in the morning. And then they realized just a couple of days in that that's not possible. There's no service in the hotel. They're going to give fresh towels and linen before you check in for a number of days. And then the hotel room stays empty for 2 days, and they fumigate it with hopefully Cintas, who's one of our sponsors, who sterilizes the room and is a professional and has the COVID-19 kits, and they know what they're doing. So hopefully they'll use a company like Cintas. But that they did that first, they leaned into it, and they showed exactly what they're doing. Only one person in the elevator. Everybody, there's no employee and guest interaction. And there was a young doctor whose mother was really concerned about him and called the hotel and said, would you put my son up? And of course, the doctor was too busy and too proud to ask for a hotel room. Anyway, he was there. And now he says he's in the middle of surgery. And when he takes a breath, he realizes I have a safe, beautiful room to go to. And it really helps him become a better doctor. And they were able to understand this is a zero sum game right now. It's like you got to start zero and go forward. And I cannot be happier that you said lean into it, because at first one of my clients said, should I do it? And I was like, listen, these are the things you're going to deal with. This is the neighborhood's going to say, hey, maybe, you know, what kind of hotel was this? And I'm concerned. That was maybe day one when I got that call. I said, but I would seriously consider it. I would probably do it off the record, I told them. But, you know, these are things you have to be sure with. 24 hours later, I called them up and said, dude, do it. Sign the contract, get these people in. This is an epidemic, a pandemic that we've never seen before. And that the Four Seasons, and Rudy was so in the front of this, I just applaud them. And I will be a fan, and I will absolutely make sure that I go to that hotel every chance that I get.
Hey, Anthony,
Absolutely.
I've been reaching out to their PR people. I haven't heard back. Maybe you could reach out to Rudy. I'd love to get them on to give them some praise on air, if possible.
I'll do that now. I'll do that.
You were saying, Kristi?
I was agree. It's there, you know, it's the ultimate service. And I did a webinar 2 weeks ago, and in the comments, someone made a comment about service before self. And I think that's going to need to be our hallmark as we try to go back to selling, as we try to go through this, is if we can honestly put the service before we put ourselves, that's how we recover in our industry.
Right. That's absolutely right. I want to wish Brian Dragojevic a happy birthday out there. He mentioned it was his birthday, so happy birthday out there to Brian. Now, Kristi, we got a question for you. What advice would you give to hotels under construction right now that are due to open this summer?
Oh, Godspeed.
Oh, yeah.
No, I think this is that time, especially if you're in a market that's maybe not in a shelter in place where you can still move around a little bit more, is if you're far enough along in construction, make your hotel sort of the center of community. If you can do a food drive where people can drop off food that gets donated to shelters, because guess what? Those shelters aren't getting food right now. Anything that you can do that you can build a social media campaign around. If you can still do blood drives, if you've got meeting space, think about it. Our meeting space is set up that we could set up blood donation stations and still do a social distancing very successfully. So donate your meeting space if it's completed and can be used to a local blood bank to let people come in and manage that control. Most blood donation centers aren't set up that you can do social distancing acceptably.
Right.
And there is a huge disagreement. I mean, American Red Cross calls me about 4 times a week trying to get me to come donate, but they don't have a place that I can go to that's convenient to get to from a social distancing perspective. So there are a lot of things that you can do to build that social media message that you're a part of this community and you're helping the effort.
Right.
And then you're going to have to start selling at some point, but you got to build those relationships. And it's hard when you haven't been able to build them up to this point.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. Anthony, do you want to ask something else, or want me to take?
Yeah, Kristi, I'm going to ask you more of a personal, professional question. When this happened and you saw how deep and bad it was, what was your initial reaction emotionally?
A bit of mourning, because I was here during 9/11, and even then our occupancies didn't drop.
Right.
And I think there was a better sense of camaraderie in our industry around, we'll get through this together. I feel like we've lost a little bit of that, whether that's because we're all caged in our homes and we're kind of sick of looking at the same 4 walls. But I don't feel like there's that same sense of industry that we had then. So at some point, we're going to have to get back to that. We're all in this together. And how can we as an industry recover successfully? I don't think we've turned that corner yet.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. And hopefully this show helps a little bit of that, everybody coming together and understanding what everybody's thinking. But thank you.
I would argue the show is helping a lot. I feel a great sense of community around the show, and I really appreciate everybody out there coming together and asking such great questions every single day that we're on the air, which is 12 Eastern Daylight Savings Time every single day of the week, Monday through Friday, and also just participating and encouraging each other. I'm seeing like advice being given to each other in the room. I'm seeing conversations starting that are being taken offline because I'm seeing emails being swapped, phone numbers being swapped. So it's really encouraging to me that there is this spirit of we can all be in it together.
Can I say this? Somebody from Buffalo Lodge Bicycle Resort, I don't know, Glenn, it's on my Facebook page if you can put it up. And he loves Kristi. Everybody loves Kristi. And I've been doing that and writing on.
That's not the right one.
That's it. No, that was the right one.
No, that's it. I've been doing that.
I'll bring it back. Nope, there we go.
Okay. Are you going to be quiet now? I've been doing that and writing on the outside of the individually wrapped toilet paper message. I have your butt covered. Let me know if you need anything.
That's awesome.
I love that.
I think it's showing that is exactly what I was talking about. That sense of we're all in this together, not just as an industry, but with our customers as well. And if you can do that and you can do it with grace and a lovely sense of humor, I think it develops a camaraderie that we need. Chris, I have a question for you.
Yep.
What are you guys doing to prepare for the recovery?
So, I mean, it's a great question. So we Chesapeake made the decision right when it downturn. We've been around a long time, so we are keeping our whole team intact. We haven't had any layoffs at the corporate level, and we're keeping. So we divided into divisions, and we have what we call the Succeed division. We have support for our current owners and everything, and then we have the division that's sales and marketing, revenue management, all of our forward-looking philosophies that are going out and planning for re-ramp procedures for every one of our hotels by market segment. And then going back through Knowland, Travel Click, everything that we have to see what markets we think are going to be traveling initially, and setting a plan for making sure we have relationships with those clients, whether they were in a tier level below or above our hotels, and having a written action plan. The minute that we see any green shoots in any market, we're going to be ready to turn it on right away. So we're just trying to stay proactive. And I wanted to comment on what you said, Kristi, about the camaraderie. I'm experiencing with our team and with my peer set that I'm talking to, everybody's going through different waves. There'll be days when I feel really motivated. I'm like, let's attack this, and it's going to happen. And then I'll talk to someone else and they're like, man, this is going to be a long slog. And what do we do? And I think you're exactly right. We've got to pick each other up. It's probably the first time in our industry that I feel like we're all arm in arm together. I really do. And like, competitors are no longer competitors, because every one of us are going to be re-ramping together at the same time. It's going to be like the world's biggest new opening of hotels, because it's going to be nuts. I mean, so you're going to have to be very detailed in your plan and how you're going to attack it. And I think some that aren't ready with people or resources are going to struggle to succeed. So
I think right now, probably by the end of next week, you're going to start seeing people a little bit sluggish, to be honest with you. I think we're getting into that part of the race where we're hitting a wall, that we're not where we were 3 weeks ago, and maybe we're out of the peak, and maybe we're seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, but we just hit the wall. We cramped up, our knees hurt, and we're just getting a little antsy, and we're getting maybe a little depressed and a little upset. And when is this going to be over? When is this going to be over? And I think so. For me personally, I go back to the word I've been using is stamina, and I'm like, okay, all right, where do I need to reset myself? Because I see it coming 10 days from now. As a general manager, we all know, and as an executive in this business for a long time, is you try to be 10 days ahead of everyone else. So I'm already trying to be a week or 10 days mentally ahead of people, because I know I already feel.
Uh-oh.
Sounds like a robot.
I know. You muted yourself, Anthony. Your mic is off.
No, my headset died, so then that happened.
Okay.
So are we good now? Can you hear me? All right.
Do you want to finish your sentence?
Yes, I love you.
Aww.
So
Kristi?
when Lee was on earlier, he made a comment about when talking about canceling the Hunter conference of when will they feel safe to travel again. And I think our true road warriors, the people that are out there all the time, and I'm one of them, we're intrepid travelers. And, I remember when Rich made the decision to cancel the vendor summit, he and I had been going back and forth via text because I'd asked him, is he going to cancel? And he's like, no, are you still coming? I'm like, I'm there. # no fear. And once things get better, I'll be the first one back on a plane. It's the nature of the beast. Where my concern lies is less about people feeling safe to travel and more about, are their businesses in the condition for them to be able to get back and travel? And I think that's where we're going to have that lag between the people feeling safe and the people that can actually physically go do it. I think what we may see interesting is in late summer, assuming that we come out of this and start coming out of this in June or July, is you're going to get a lot of drive market business where people aren't quite comfortable getting on a plane yet, but they'll take that 3 or 4 day, I need to get away from my house and see something that's not the confines of my own home. And they're going to just draw that map, draw that 5-hour circle around their location and say, that looks like a really cool place. You may get Tulsa, Oklahoma, may get a lot of Dallas travelers because it's easy to get to.
Kristi, do you think that since, us included, everybody's shut down all the e-commerce really, and your placement advertising, do you think that you're going to need to start that ahead of people starting to search by using technology to see what they're searching for? Or when do you think is the right time to start putting money back into those funnels?
I think if you're watching your Smith Travel and not looking at the year over year, I think we can all agree we can give up on our year over year comparisons. We've actually created for the top 25 in the US a week over week comparison so that we can actually see when markets are starting to flatten out and bottom out, and when we start to see those green shoots coming back up. Surprisingly, 8 markets last week actually did grow in occupancy. One of them by New York went up 3 points last week.
I think most of that's driven by medical and by,
I know it is, but just to see that we're no longer just plummeting to the bottom is refreshing. So when you start seeing those green shoots, less about the flattening out, but also about the just growing a little bit, that's when you're going to need to start looking at that. And I think you're going to need to be very targeted in that. What is that 5-hour radius around my hotel? And then how do I place those ads, whether that's through IP address? It might be worth going back to good old newspaper advertising, because it may be people are just sick of looking at the internet and pick up a piece of paper. My son's reading, my 18-year-old sex the last 10 days. I'm kind of thrilled about it.
Yeah.
One of the questions, if we can kind of
I've got some questions. Do you got one loaded up?
Which one? Sherry Ann?
I was looking at a different one. Go first, Sherry Ann. This one?
Yeah. How do you think hotels should approach the guests that do not cancel their reservations and end up as a no-show? Should hotels continue a policy or let them go? Let me answer it first, because I have no ties to our hotel or their company. And my answer is, if I was a general manager and somebody with a no-show through, I would go over and tear it up. That's a nice way of me saying that. But I understand hotels need cash, and I understand everybody's different, but personally I would fight that fight with the owner. And if I was the owner, how do you give a no-show? Matter of fact, I was supposed to be on a plane today to the Bahamas. My daughter had her senior trip, and I was going. And, and I don't know if they canceled my reservation. I canceled my assistant canceled my plane reservation, but I don't know if they canceled my reservation. The hotel, I think, is closed, so hopefully they canceled it. But I didn't even think about it. So if they no-show me, I'll be a little upset.
These numbers are so small that we're talking about right now. I don't know what Sherry Ann's hotel is, but I mean, we had across our whole portfolio, we probably had 30% no-shows last night. But that you're talking with 30%, you're talking a few rooms per hotel, and that's not the difference between making the mortgage note or not. So I think doing the right thing, the hospitable thing in this time, is still the right thing. So, I mean, we're really passing over them. So.
I would add on to that. If you've got the email address for that client, it might be worth sending them a note saying, hey, we know that with everything that's going on, you probably forgot to cancel your reservation. We're waiving our normal no-show policy. Thanks, and we hope to see you again soon.
Yeah, and that will get me to remember you.
All right, so I got a question here, Anthony, from your LinkedIn page. How can tech vendors that support thousands of hotels continue to support hoteliers so they in turn can continue to support guests and their teams?
I don't understand the premise of the question.
They're saying that they've supplied free data to help with events and marketing information, for example. I guess he's from
somebody want to take that? I don't think I understand the question.
Well, I think that a lot of the vendors a lot of our vendors have opened up their services, deferred payments to continue providing the service because really, just like a management company, there is no revenue right now. In the hotels, there's no revenue, but we want to keep the industry going. So I think the smart tech suppliers and vendors that sell us things are opening up their resources to help us succeed coming out of this and supporting us through this time of zero revenue.
Right. It sounds like exactly, Anthony, what you and I are both doing. We're just keep pushing ahead no matter what, right?
We're 24 hours into this thing. Me and even I think it was like it felt like 3 seconds. Yeah. We're like, okay, let's go live. Boom, done. And then I was fortunate enough to get my LinkedIn live at the same time, or a couple days later. So, and my clients, Jeremy Pinkerton, my partner, and I've talked about it every day. We have a company called Hospitality Success, where we're a consulting company. We're a revenue management company, consulting company, but we're not a management company. As I say, I don't want your problems. I want you to solve your own problems. So we have an education system in place and a consulting system in place. Anyway, we lost our clients within 24 hours. Done. Yeah. And we didn't let one of them go. We're working for free. We're still doing all our calls and we're still doing everything we need to do. And we're like, hey, we're both people that we ran our companies like we were going out of business 10 years ago. So we're in a position where we can just be there for them. And every day we can be here for you and for everyone else who wants to be on the show, because we understand this is a long-term process, and hopefully people remember me and Glenn, whether I get back on TV, I don't get back on TV, whether I whatever I do in the future, you'll remember us and you'll hire us to come out and do keynote speaking engagements and do our podcast from the road, because we'll be doing this with just because it's the right thing to do.
And we can help with virtual events too, if you feel like doing that.
So on that note, Glenn, there's a good question from Richard Rainey.
Go for it. And then do you think companies are going to switch to video conferencing instead of traveling? And then I've got another question on my end when you guys are done with this.
Listen, this is just a way for her to come and get her own corner. I'm going to cut her off in a second.
I know, right? Yeah. She's very intimidating, Anthony.
My take on it is, I think for a little while we're going to do that just because we need it. But the fact of the matter is that we are better and more nimble as human beings when we meet in person. Yep. So it's going to pause things for a little while. We're going to think we can do things from video conferencing, but at the end of the day, we just ultimately can't. We're better when we see each other. We think much better that way. So I think we're going to see a little bit of a lag, and then it's all going to come back. Hotels are going to make some points to say we've got video conferencing, but eventually we're going to get back to meeting in person.
It's so funny. I had a company call me about 6 months ago and wanted to do a video conference. And they were going to pay me basically the same money if I was a keynote speaker. And I was like, I could basically do this from home and make all this money to do a keynote speech. And I said, no, I want to show up. And it's just, I'm a much better speaker, and I'm an emotional guy. So I feed off the audience, and my energy comes from other people, which I realized that like 10 years ago. I didn't think it did, but it really does. So as much as I love doing this, if you tell me I can get on a plane tomorrow and my wife lets me out of the house and I can go do this live, I'm putting my mask and gloves on. I'm getting on a plane. I'm going. And I think your point is well taken. And we have short-term memories, we're going to want to be around people. We're going to be in a bar, in a restaurant, having a conversation with friends and family and colleagues. And we're going to forget that saying we're going to forget what the tragedies and everything that's happening, all the people putting their lives on the line for us. But as far as I'm going to forget that I'm not allowed to hug Glenn or shake people's hands or whatever. It's just, I think it's going to relatively quickly evaporate.
Yeah. The only difference is now we're going to be in bars and we're going to wonder why this bartender didn't put any alcohol in our drink.
Okay. So I got a question from Leslie Mill, who's the director of sales at the Monarch Casino Resort. Very important question, I think. What about groups that want to postpone until 2021? She says they're currently trying to steer them towards later in this calendar year. How are you, Chris, seeing it? How are you, Kristi, seeing it? Any thoughts, strategies behind that?
I think it's what Kristi said earlier is the company going to be in the financial position to host the meeting this year? Really, right. That's going to be the biggest, can they justify, just like Lee said about his conference, not only people are going to be trying to put their businesses back together, trying to make sure their financials are in order, still dealing with the crisis financially coming out of it. Are they going to be ready to even go to a conference or host a conference later this year? Most of our stuff is moving to 21. The big annual, biannual, associational conferences or big Smurf conferences, those type of things, they're moving to 21. Right. I don't know about Kristi.
Yeah, we're seeing much the same thing. And, my take on it is if they're willing to rebook versus just straight up cancel, be flexible and let them move to next year if they need to. Because what I think is going to end up happening is a lot of those big biannual or annual things are going to become smaller events for a while, probably for about 8 to 10 months. What you're going to see is they'll do that same meeting in 5 different destinations because they can have their attendees drive to those destinations. So we may be about a year off before seeing those 400 and 500 event meetings. So if you've got a company that's willing to commit to that 400 or 500 event and they want to do it next year, go for it. Let them do it.
It's interesting. In a week, we went from probably June, July, August, and now we're literally a week later and going next year. I mean, that was a big shift in just a few days. Glenn, right? Remember last week we were like,
I'm trying to forget. I'm actually working really hard to forget last week, but yeah, you're absolutely correct. Sherry Ann Salerno is saying something. Just says weddings too up there makes me think that those types of events might come back a little bit sooner because those individuals will probably be more reluctant to push those dates, change those dates. Will do anything they can to keep those dates from shifting.
And you know what? If they've been quarantined together, there may not be a wedding.
Someone said that today there are going to be a lot of babies in 9 months, and more likely there are going to be a lot of divorces in 9 months.
There's going to be a lot of both of those in 9 months. I would love to be an OBGYN attorney. I think that'll be a perfect.
That's an interesting specialty you have there, Glenn.
Yeah, no, we're trying.
Hey, my friend Luca from Italy. Luca, I want to have you on the show. Luca owns a business in Rome, and he's I want to say a tour guide. He's much more than that, but he owns a travel business in Rome. And I was fortunate enough to meet him when I was there, and he's become part of my family, really. And so I'd like to hear from Luca to be on the show and tell me what's going on in Italy. Tell me what the perspective is, and when you think you guys are going to get back to business, and when do you think you'll get back to business? When do you think you're going to start seeing people come from America?
Right.
And Luca and I had actually a conversation. Probably 2 months ago when things were getting bad, and we were probably not in agreement with the way we thought things were going, and so I'd like to get his perspective now and to see where he's coming. Right. So Luca, ask us questions.
Yeah, and I will reach out to you, Luca, about getting you on here as well, because we've got a show coming up with one of the country's leading travel agents and a big time tour operator. So I think you'd fit in nicely with that panel of people as well. So. Great. Any silver linings here, Kristi, that people should be thinking about? That's a question that somebody really wants to know. What's the silver lining for you that's going on right now and what you're telling customers?
So for me, the silver lining is we all have this moment to sort of reset our hotels and reset what our service levels are going to look like, reset who our customer base is going to be. So you now have a little bit of downtime. We're not running for 100% occupancy. We may be running 10% occupancy of saying, what's my ideal customer base look like? And how do I want to attack that when it's time to launch an offensive and start reaching out to these customers again? And to what we said right at the top of the hour is now we have that chance to get back to being hunters and actually looking for our business versus our business dropping in our lap. Because at the end of the day, if you've got a sales team that's full of people that know how to go find business, uncover that rock, that supports you through all times, up or down. If you just become a team of order takers, you do great when everything is doing great. But when something like this unexpected happens, you don't know how to handle that and you don't know how to recover. So reset that expectation, go find out who your hunters are, and then put together that action plan so that you can hunt when we're ready to.
Kristi, I'm going to officially make you part of the show and give you your own corner. I'd like you to be on the show at least once a week, and I mean that sincerely. I mean, your perspective, you're the type of person when I go into a hotel and there's 18 executives, I'm thinking one hotel in particular, there's 18 executives, and I fire 17 of them, and you're the 18th one, and I say, hey, Kristi, will you stay? And you go, what do you want me to do? I want you to do the other 17 people's jobs.
Yeah,
well,
good job, Kristi.
I've gotten my last 5 jobs, Anthony, so it really helps out. Thanks.
No, but you get that instinctively, and people say, what's a hotel person? What's the spirit of a hotel person? And people say, well, I like people. I don't like people. I like being around people. I make people happy, but do I really like people? Not that much, but I like making them happy. And so my spirit, I think, is in line with yours in reference to. I just have this thing. I want to bring people together and I want to make people happy. And it's a no nonsense approach. And I like your approach. So I invite you to come on. And Glenn, maybe we can give even a bigger corner than Chris and push Chris a little bit to the side.
I mean, it's literally, I feel like Anthony has a thing for me, but it is easy to edit that slide. You could just make it Kristi's corner. So it's easy to do. I
feel like if Anthony didn't really like you, he wouldn't pick on you that way.
Oh,
so it's probably, it's one of those good things.
I will tell you this, and this is true. And anybody that's listening that's worked for me, they will tell you this. This is God honest truth. When Anthony's quiet, and Anthony just says hello and goodbye to you in the day. That's what people say. That's
not a good thing.
And it's true because I don't want to say anything bad and get myself in trouble with human resources. So I get really, really quiet. So Chris, I love you.
Hey, Glenn, I was going to just share this anecdote. I'm trying to find silver linings too, but I always tell my team, there's this 80s song by the band Garbage that the line says, I'm only happy when it rains. I'm only happy when it's complicated. Yeah. So, and that's me. So, I mean, I really like difficult situations. And even though this is horrible what we're in, we're going to have to work super hard to fight our way out of it. And it's really going to separate another saying by my grandmother, the wheat from the chaff, right? Who can really put on their big boy and big girl pants and make it happen. And I'm excited for the challenge. We have to figure out something good to come out of this, right? So let's overcome this challenge together and be hospitality.
And going back to Luca's question, he says all flights into Italy and Europe in general have been canceled until December. Is that the case? I haven't heard that.
I hadn't either.
Are you just making that up, Luca? Like you make everything else up, or is that true?
Poor Luca.
This is a real show, real information. We can't be putting fake information out, Luca. But Italy is obviously not only they've gone through just kind of what we're going through, and even worse, their mortality rate is up over ours significantly. They don't have the economy we did going in. They didn't have the structure going in that we did. So I'm concerned about Italy. I really am.
Yeah. Good point. So Chris, before we wrap up today, Kristi was making a point about making sure that the salespeople are really prepared. Don't make sure that they're just order takers and stuff like that. I know you're a forward-thinking guy, and we've had this conversation in the past. What have you done to make sure that your sales team does not have those habits? And what are you thinking about now to make sure that they're fully armed with the knowledge that they need to find success in the future?
It's a good question. And I like to, while I'm on here, to try and stay industry wide. So I'll tell you a little bit what we did about 3 years ago. Clifford Farrar. He's our EVP of Sales and Marketing, and he's an old school guy. We talked about this process that we were just getting used to people answering the phone and waiting for the RFPs to come in. So we actually hired a third-party consultant that we work with that built out a training platform for Chesapeake called Chesapeake One that was literally hand-to-hand combat, old school selling, the old wheel of all the clients that your client deals with. And we've had huge success. We were doing that because we saw transient trending off even before this happened. So, and group was really performing. So we were going to make sure we backfilled our hotels with good group pace. That same thing applies. I'm just glad that our skill sets were honed in the past couple of years, because hand-to-hand relationship building and understanding not only your clients, but who are your clients' clients and who travels with your clients and who sells to them. That's going to be critical in rapid recovery. If you want to have rapid recovery, you're going to need to expand your thought base to broader markets and how you can service them and quickly. So,
and I think people that listen, nobody saw this coming. Period. But if you're a person where you know something's coming and we had 10 years of growth and everything's good, if you're a person that says, listen, something's going to change and it's going to be significant, you're probably well suited to kind of be prepared for this. And again, I think all our mentalities are something's going to happen. This, you can't have 10 years of just immense success throughout our industry and not something to get hit. And so I think when you get hit, you're like, okay, listen, I was expecting to get hit. That's why we all have a rainy day fund. That's why we all kind of try to run our businesses efficiently. And now let's go forward. And you cannot, I look at it this way, there by the grace of God go I. I can't look at somebody else's misfortune, even when things are going well for me, and not really put myself in the place of there by the grace of God go I. And I think right now we're all in that situation together. And it's like, okay, why not us? Why not planet Earth? Why not us? Now let's move forward and let's be successful together, because there's been different levels of success over those 10 years, but in general, there's been a great place to live, and why not us? Now let's move forward. That's how I look at everything.
The thing was, everybody was planning for a leveling off or even a decline in RevPAR, right? We saw it backing up. So these strategies of selling were what you were working on anyways. So it just, nobody planned for the RevPAR to go like this, right?
And then, to build on that, I think as an industry, we stopped training our people. I remember literally I've been in the business for 34 years. And in my very first sales job, within a month of that, I was in a sales boot camp to how to do cold call, how to walk in the door of an office, how to do of that. You don't do that. We talk to people when we go through training for our product, and we ask them, what was your last job? 9 times out of 10, it's not quite that high. It's probably 3 times out of 10. Their last job was as a barista at the Starbucks in Target. Not even a barista at a real Starbucks, right. The Starbucks in Target.
And that was a Starbucks in a McDonald's at Target.
And that was their last job. They've not been given any training. It was just, here's your login to Salesforce, and may the odds be ever in your favor. Yeah. So I think as an industry, we do have to get back to that of training our salespeople how to functionally sell and not just to take orders. But I think that extends even further to all aspects of our hotel. We've got an industry of people that are a generation of people that they don't know what good service is. They think screaming into the clown's head, pulling up to the window and your order is right is good service. We have to mirror what we want that to be in order for them to understand how to service our guest appropriately. So, it's not just about our salespeople, it's all through our buildings.
I think that's a really good point, because before this happened, everybody's like, I can't find anybody. And when you found somebody, you threw them in and go, hey, just take the wave like everybody else. Now when you're coming back, you have a real opportunity to find real talent and to train that talent to your company. And I'm not an overtrainer. I don't believe in every single word coming out of your mouth should be trained. I think where we have to really reconsider where we put our money and our efforts is we talk about human resources. Well, human resources is where we need to put the money. In the interview process, how we interview, how many people are interviewing people, how are we aligning them with their predictive index to their job? I think we need to put real money in and get the real talent that's out there immediately, and maybe even get them a little sooner, You know, if I was a company that had cash and I was a management company, I would go out and get that talent now, or maybe not this second, but maybe a couple of months or a month before everybody else is going to be looking for them, and get them on my books and train them, because this is a great opportunity. We didn't have this opportunity 6 months ago. You couldn't find anyone. I mean, you were going in the street, putting a name tag on people and say, go to the front desk. What's a front desk? I've never been in a hotel before. Oh, this is nice. You know, and it's true. And so those people, I'm funny, huh? All right.
It's hysterical.
It was funny. But I think that's really, this is a great opportunity. We should really talk about that, Glenn, on other shows. Bring some human resource people on. It's like no excuses anymore, because people are sick. Well, Anthony, when I walk in the hotels, and I'm not like a big complainer, but when I talk to my friends, like, listen, I'm not impressed with your hotel, man. This is not like, the service isn't that great. Anthony, it's hard to find good people. Well, now you have no excuse, because everybody's sitting down.
Right. Great point. I also want to say that Del Ross of Hotel Effectiveness was bringing up a point before you mentioned it, Kristi White, which is all about, hey, get people to learn how to cold call again. It's definitely a lost art for sure.
Oh, it's absolutely. We do coaching with our product of how you make that phone call, and we ask them, what do you say? And it's, hi, Anthony. Do you have any meetings? And that's prompt that, that was their idea of hunting. And it's not Anthony, I know that you guys have had meetings in our market in the past, and you've been staying over at the XYZ hotel. Tell me what it is about that hotel that you like. And then pivoting in that conversation to say, well, here's how I might be able to do that better for you. Here's how I might make you look better in doing your. Really? They don't know how to have those conversations.
And it goes from a cold call to an introductory call, because you're not cold calling, because you know about that hotel, right. That guest, you know about what they're looking for. So it's it's kind of what you do. I mean, you take the cold part out of it, and what you do is your company. You give us analysis in order to make that a cold call warmer and more of an a first call, not a cold call.
Yep.
Yeah. So, all right, Chris, I know needs to get going. He's got this show's been going on much longer than we expected. You've got another appointment. You want to say goodbye to us, Chris?
Yeah, goodbye, Glenn and Kristi. Oh, sorry. Goodbye, Anthony.
You know what's so funny, Chris? I always say I'm a very competitive person. I never give my competition an edge. By you leaving early, you're giving Kristi an edge.
That's okay. Hey, you know what? She deserves it. It's been an honor being on with her. I know that really collaborates. She collaborates with our team, and her team does, and we appreciate it. And I'm telling you, that's good stuff. You can learn a lot from what they do over at Knowland. So thanks again.
Hey, Chris, you know I love you, and what you're doing for the industry is great. I appreciate you.
Yeah, too bad Anthony just fired you, though. So we'll see.
I know, I'm fired.
We'll see you on Tuesday. Take care, man. Have a happy weekend. All right, Kristi, let's wrap up with you. This has been really such a great conversation. We've gotten so much real practical, helpful, interesting advice there today. What do you want people to remember you with before you sign off for today?
Get back to selling, really selling, not order taking. And then to kind of build on things Anthony said a couple of times, this is a marathon. It's not a sprint. Mm-hmm. We're going to have to work hard to keep our spirits up and keep a positive feel on this. So celebrate the wins that you have. If you ran 20% occupancy last week and you've been running 10% occupancy, celebrate the hell out of that because you need to. And remember, the recovery is going to start locally. So start developing those local relationships.
Excellent. Good points. Anthony, any final words for Kristi?
It's an absolute pleasure, Kristi, and I mean it. I would love you to be on the show.
Anytime, guys.
As often as my boss, Glenn, will allow you.
Kristi, we will most definitely get you back on the show.
Hey, Glenn has a visitor.
I know. My cat has been here the whole time. If you saw the camera shaking, I got she's just really starting to get a little.
What's your cat's name?
That one is called Splotchy.
Splotchy, but she looks all black.
She's not. Her sister, Kit Kat, is all black. This one's got mottled fur all over the place. Yeah.
Well, I'll echo what Glenn said. Your insight was great, and it was real, and we need that. We don't need people posturing and hearing what we want to hear. So thank you very much, Kristi, and you have a wonderful day, and we're all in this together.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Take care, Kristi. We'll see you later. Thank you so much.
Have a good afternoon.
Yeah, take care. Bye-bye. Wow.
Where you been hiding her? She's great.
What a good show. That's we are just getting the coolest people to be open and honest with us. And it is just such an honor to be able to be here and really see what everybody's experiencing and going through right now. Unbelievable.
Yeah. And, I think it's a good diversion for what's, a lot of families going through from a health standpoint. So, we're focused on trying to basically let people see the future. But what really came out of this to me, Glenn, was very interesting, is people are not talking in terms of June anymore, July. People are like, let's just throw it to January 2021 on the group business, the corporate travel business. And let's just figure out the rest, and let's not worry and give ourselves extra stress on that. And then if we're able to find a vaccine or things get much better, we will then close the gap and look at that point. But I think people are like, let's just move that away and deal with what's in front of us. And I think from a financial standpoint, from a bailout standpoint and a CARES Act standpoint, I think people will probably be able to get more money and be able to save their businesses if they can get out of their own, not people, but if the CARES Act can get out of its own way and really funnel that money. I think it's better spent to keep the lights on than it is to try to figure out how to manage a hotel during a pandemic.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So, Anthony, you're going to be going live today on your channel by any chance?
I will be going live. I think tomorrow I'm going live. I don't think we're going live today, but I'm available to go live. Do you want to go live?
I've got Passover. I got to go do some family stuff this afternoon. You know, we're trying to keep some sort of sense of normalcy around here. But if you do want to go on, I'll make an excuse. I kind of like you more than my family these days anyway. I get some positive feedback from you.
I'll tell you, the great thing about living, I just realized, I don't spend a lot of time up in this part of the house. And these walls are so thick because this house is 80 years old. I can have a dance party up here and no one would hear me. So it's fantastic. You don't hear my dog barking. You don't hear the kids. You don't hear nobody.
Nope. Yeah, certainly not. Well, man, this has been fun. All right, guys. Thank you for being here today. Tomorrow we got Craig Morgan on the show. Anthony, a good friend of yours, outdoorsman, Green Beret, country music star, all of those incredible things, none of which I will ever be able to do. So it'll be great to have him on the show. Yeah.
And I may have a little surprise for you. I'll let you know later.
All right. I can't wait. I love surprises. All right. So, guys, thank you so much for being here. Be sure to subscribe to our weekly newsletter. Text the word hotel to 66866. That way you get all of the content that we're putting out, all 5 of our weekly shows, plus a whole lot more that you're not necessarily going to be seeing in the online world. So text that word hotel to 66866. Thanks so much again to the good folks at BarTech for being behind us and sponsoring us. Thank you so much to the good folks over at Cintas for being behind us. And thanks to our other sponsors for our other venues, such as Porcelanosa and Red Roof and Room in a Box and a whole lot of other companies out there as well that are still out there trying to support us. Yay, SkyTouch. Thank you for that. Anthony, any final words?
Thanks for checking in.
Yeah. So for Anthony and myself, thanks for checking in. And hopefully one day we'll get back to a place where you guys have no vacancy. See what I did there, Anthony?
Happy Passover, everyone. And happy Easter.
Happy Easter Passover. Woohoo.